ExamPrep.School. North Carolina Auto Physical Damage Insurance Exam. Exam code InsNC-AutoPD16. There are 12 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Consumer Services Division Rules. Unfair Trade Practices. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. Under GS 58-63-1511, which action by an insurer constitutes misrepresentation of pertinent policy facts? A. Understating how an insured's premium is calculated. B. Falsely stating that collision coverage applies to a replaced vehicle. C. Delaying a claim payment due to internal processing procedures. D. Failing to inform an insured of the independent adjuster's name. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is B. The statute prohibits knowingly misstating or misrepresenting coverage, benefits, policy provisions, or terms. Falsely stating coverage applicability directly misrepresents a policy fact. Reason A is not correct. Premium calculation relates to rate setting, not misrepresentation of policy terms or coverage. Reason C is not correct. Payment delays involve timeliness but do not misstate any policy fact. Reason D is not correct. Failure to disclose an adjuster's name is a communication issue, not misrepresentation of coverage. Question 2. According to GS 58-63-1511, within how many days must an insurer acknowledge communications related to a claim? A. 5 business days. B. 15 calendar days. C. 30 calendar days. D. 45 calendar days. The correct answer is B. The statute requires insurers to promptly acknowledge receipt of communications regarding claims within 15 days of notification. Reason A is not correct. 5 business days is shorter than the statutory requirement and not specified in the text. Reason C is not correct. 30 days exceeds the period defined by the statute for prompt acknowledgement. Reason D is not correct. 45 days is well beyond the time frame the law prescribes for acknowledging claims. Question 3. An auto insurer receives a homeowner's theft claim and denies coverage 2 days later, citing insufficient proof without reviewing the filed police report or interviewing available witnesses. Which action would have met the reasonable standards for claim investigation under GS 58-63-1511? A. Request additional documents from the insured before taking any investigative steps. B. Deny the claim and then consult a forensic specialist for further review. C. Issue a partial payment immediately and complete the investigation afterward. D. Obtain and review the police report and interview witnesses prior to making a coverage determination. The correct answer is D. Conducting a thorough investigation by obtaining the police report and interviewing witnesses before deciding demonstrates adherence to reasonable standards for claim investigation. Reason A is not correct. Waiting for the insured to produce documents shifts the burden improperly. The insurer must proactively obtain necessary evidence. Reason B is not correct. Denying first and consulting later fails to ensure the investigation informs the coverage decision. Reason C is not correct. Issuing a partial payment does not substitute for completing a timely and thorough investigation. Question 4. An auto insurer values a total loss vehicle using 5-year-old market data, resulting in an undervalued settlement offer. Which approach would satisfy the fair and equitable settlement obligation under GS 58-63-1511? A. Base the actual cash value on current industry listings and dealer quotes. B. Apply a flat depreciation rate regardless of vehicle age or condition. C. Use only the insurer's internal historical pricing schedule. D. Estimate value based solely on the vehicle's original purchase price. The correct answer is A. Using up-to-date industry data such as recent listings and dealer quotes ensures the settlement is both fair and equitable under statutory requirements. Reason B is not correct. A uniform depreciation rate ignores specific market conditions and vehicle factors, violating equitable valuation. Reason C is not correct. Relying solely on internal historical data can produce outdated valuations, failing fair settlement standards. Reason D is not correct. Original purchase price does not reflect current market value and leads to inequitable settlements. Question 5. An insured reports a covered auto loss and awaits a written coverage determination. The insurer takes 30 days to issue a denial letter, exceeding the required period. Which insurer action would comply with the timely affirmation or denial requirement under GS 58-63-1511? A. Provide a written coverage decision within 15 business days of claim notification. B. Begin repairs immediately and delay any written decision until after completion. C. Notify the insured verbally of coverage status and follow up in writing after 30 days. D. Issue a partial acknowledgement of receipt within 15 days and full decision after 30 days. The correct answer is A. Issuing a clear written affirmation or denial within the statutory 15 business day period meets the timely notice requirement under the statute. Reason B is not correct. Delaying a written decision until after repairs bypasses the requirement for prompt written notice. Reason C is not correct. Verbal notification alone does not fulfill the statute's written affirmation or denial mandate within the time frame. Reason D is not correct. Acknowledgement of receipt is not a substitute for the required timely coverage decision. Question 6. Under G, S 58-63-1511, how many calendar days does an insurer have to furnish policy provisions upon a claimant's written request? A. 5 calendar days. B. 30 calendar days. C. 15 calendar days. D. 45 calendar days. The correct answer is C. The statute mandates that once a written request is received, policy provisions must be furnished within 15 calendar days to ensure timely disclosure to claimants. Reason A is not correct. 5 calendar days is shorter than the time frame set by the statute, which requires a longer period. Reason B is not correct. 30 calendar days exceeds the statutory limit established for furnishing policy provisions. Reason D is not correct. 45 calendar days is well beyond the maximum period specified by the statute. Question 7. According to GS 58-63-1511, which of the following must be documented in an insurer's claim file for every communication? A. Only written notifications to the claimant. B. Details of claim payments processed. C. Date, participants, and substance of all communications. D. Internal policy review notes unrelated to the claim. The correct answer is C. The statute requires claim files to include the date, parties involved, and content of all communications to maintain transparency and accountability in claim handling. Reason A is not correct. Limiting documentation to only written notifications fails to capture all forms of communication required by statute. Reason B is not correct. Recording payment details does not address the requirement to document communication specifics. Reason D is not correct. Internal policy reviews unrelated to claimant communications are outside the scope of the documentation requirement. Question 8. A policyholder submits an auto physical damage claim for a cracked windshield. XYZ Insurance issues a written denial citing a collision exclusion, but does not notify the policyholder of the appraisal clause in the policy as an alternative dispute resolution mechanism. Under GS 58-63-1511, which action by the insurer violates disclosure requirements? A. Failing to notify the insured of the right to invoke the appraisal clause to resolve value disputes. B. Omitting the deductible amount and calculation method from the denial letter. C. Failing to present the option to retain salvage and arrange its sale. D. Neglecting to include a copy of all policy terms and conditions with the denial. The correct answer is A. Under GS 58-63-1511, a denial letter must inform the policyholder that the appraisal clause is available as an alternative method for resolving valuation disputes. Reason B is not correct. Deductible disclosure is not mandated by GS 58-63-1511 in a denial letter addressing valuation disputes. Reason C is not correct. Salvage retention options are unrelated to the statutory requirement to disclose the appraisal clause. Reason D is not correct. There is no obligation under this statute to attach the entire policy in the denial letter. Question 9. After investigating hail damage, DEF Insurance sends a denial letter stating, "We are denying coverage per Section B coverage exclusion," without specifying the exact policy provision or statute. Under GS 58-63-1511, which omission in the denial letter constitutes a violation of clarity requirements? A. Lack of clear identification of the specific policy provision or statute that justifies the denial. B. Not informing the insured of the right to invoke the appraisal clause as an alternative resolution. C. Failing to provide the regulator's contact details for a consumer complaint submission. D. Omitting an explanation of the method used to calculate the loss valuation. The correct answer is A. GS 58-63-1511 requires denial correspondence to clearly cite the precise policy provision or statute supporting the denial so the insured understands the legal basis. Reason B is not correct. Appraisal clause notification is a separate disclosure duty, but not the clarity requirement at issue here. Reason C is not correct. Providing regulatory contact information is not mandated by this statute in denial correspondence. Reason D is not correct. Methodology for loss valuation is not part of the clarity requirement to cite policy or statute. Question 10. According to GS 58-63-1511, which basis must an insurer use to determine the fair market value of a total loss vehicle? A. The manufacturer's suggested retail price for the vehicle. B. The retail value of similar vehicles in the immediate geographic area. C. The sum of estimated repair costs and the vehicle's salvage value. D. The original purchase price adjusted for depreciation. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is based on retail values of comparable vehicles in the immediate geographic area, as required by GS 58-63-1511 when determining fair market value for a total loss. Reason A is not correct. This basis is wrong because the statute specifies comparison to actual market retail prices rather than a suggested manufacturer price. Reason C is not correct. This is incorrect since repair cost plus salvage value is not how fair market value is defined under the statute. Reason D is not correct. This choice is inappropriate because fair market value is not tied to the original purchase price, but to current market retail comparisons. Question 11. An insured's vehicle incurs front-end damage, requiring replacement of the hood and fender. The insurer's appraiser applies 25% depreciation to the hood, but a nearly identical prior claim on the same model used only 20% depreciation on both parts. Under GS 58-63-1511, what must the insurer do? A. Continue with a 25% depreciation on the hood and 20% on the fender to reflect actual wear. B. Eliminate depreciation on the fender since it appears undamaged in photos. C. Use 25% depreciation on both hood and fender to maintain consistency in the current claim. D. Apply 20% depreciation uniformly to both hood and fender to match the prior claim's treatment. The correct answer is D. The statute requires that depreciation rates be applied consistently across similar claims. Matching the earlier 20% rate on both parts ensures uniform treatment and prevents unfair betterment or penalty. Reason A is not correct. Using different rates continues the inconsistency that the statute prohibits. Reason B is not correct. Removing depreciation on an undamaged part misapplies depreciation rules and is unrelated to consistency with past claims. Reason C is not correct. Applying a higher rate differs from the prior claim and violates consistent application requirements. Question 12. After declaring a vehicle a total loss, an insurer calculates actual cash value and issues the check without including state sales tax or title and registration fees. Under GS 58-63-1511, which fees must be included in the total loss settlement? A. Only the state sales tax on the purchase of a replacement vehicle. B. State sales tax and salvage yard fees for disposing of the damaged vehicle. C. State sales tax plus title transfer and registration fees required to acquire a replacement vehicle. D. Salvage yard fees and towing charges incurred during the loss recovery. The correct answer is C. The statute mandates that total loss settlements cover all necessary taxes and fees to transfer title and register a replacement, including sales tax, title transfer fees, and registration fees. Reason A is not correct. Excluding title and registration fees fails to cover the full cost of obtaining a replacement vehicle. Reason B is not correct. Salvage yard fees are separate from title transfer costs and not required under this settlement provision. Reason D is not correct. Towing and salvage disposal are not part of the statutory requirement to include taxes and title registration fees. Question 13. An insurer proposes using an aftermarket turbocharger that costs 30% less than the OEM part on a repairable vehicle. Under GS 58-63-1511, what must the insurer do when valuing and offering this aftermarket part to the insured? A. Charge the insured the difference between OEM and aftermarket cost if the insured declines the aftermarket option. B. Use the average of OEM and aftermarket cost to determine the depreciation rate. C. Disclose material and quality differences, obtain insured's consent, and base payment on the actual aftermarket cost. D. Settle at the OEM price without disclosure, absorbing any cost savings. The correct answer is C. The statute requires insurers to disclose any quality or material differences between aftermarket and OEM parts, secure the insured's informed consent, and pay based on the aftermarket unit's actual cost. Reason A is not correct. Charging a difference without informed consent fails the statute's disclosure requirement. Reason B is not correct. Averaging costs misapplies valuation rules and ignores the insurer's duty to pay actual aftermarket cost. Reason D is not correct. Settling at OEM price without disclosure hides cost savings and violates transparency requirements. Question 14. According to GS 58-63-1511, which practice is explicitly prohibited as a means to compel a claimant into litigation through insufficient settlement offers? A. Requiring the claimant to execute a subrogation waiver before settlement discussions begin. B. Making an initial offer substantially below the amount ultimately recoverable to force the claimant to sue. C. Applying an excessive depreciation schedule to vehicle parts without disclosure. D. Delaying payment by requesting unnecessary supporting documents beyond policy provisions. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is that offering a settlement substantially below the recoverable amount to induce litigation is prohibited by GS 58-63-1511, which bans lowball offers designed to force lawsuits. Reason A is not correct. Insisting on a subrogation waiver is not the specific conduct addressed by this statute's ban on low settlement offers. Reason C is not correct. Use of depreciation schedules may violate other provisions, but is not the act of compelling litigation via a low-ball offer. Reason D is not correct. Requesting documents beyond policy requirements pertains to communication standards, not forcing litigation through underpayment. Question 15. An insurer's claims representative tells a policyholder that if the policyholder does not sign a release form waiving all future rights to recover for hidden damage, the insurer will refuse to process any part of the claim. Which practice most directly violates GS 58-63-1511 prohibition on misrepresenting legal rights of claimants? A. Failing to disclose coverage limits when presenting a release. B. Delaying claim payment until after a written statement is obtained. C. Stating that signing the release permanently bars all future damage claims. D. Providing an incomplete explanation of settlement valuation. The correct answer is C. The representative misstates the legal effect of the release by claiming it bars all future damage claims, which is a prohibited misrepresentation of claimant rights. Reason A is not correct. Non-disclosure of coverage limits concerns transparency but does not misstate statutory rights under the release. Reason B is not correct. Delaying payment is an unfair practice but is not a misrepresentation of legal rights. Reason D is not correct. An incomplete valuation explanation relates to settlement fairness, not to misrepresentation of claimant rights. Question 16. A claim adjuster conditions any payment on the policyholder signing a full release form immediately without advising the policyholder of the opportunity to seek independent legal advice. Which action violates GS 58-63-1511 proper handling of releases without coercion? A. Informing the policyholder of the right to obtain legal counsel before signing. B. Failing to retain a copy of the signed release in the file. C. Offering the release without explaining its future effect. D. Conditioning payment on immediate execution of a full release. The correct answer is D. Requiring a release as a condition of payment coerces the policyholder and deprives them of a free choice, which is prohibited under the statute. Reason A is not correct. Advising of the right to counsel is required, not prohibited, and does not constitute coercion. Reason B is not correct. Failure to retain documentation is a procedural lapse, but not coercion in release handling. Reason C is not correct. While inadequate explanation is problematic, the core violation here is conditioning payment on signing. Question 17. Under 11N, CAC 04.0418, within how many calendar days must an insurer acknowledge receipt of a consumer complaint? A. 5 calendar days. B. 10 calendar days. C. 30 calendar days. D. 15 calendar days. The correct answer is D. The rule requires insurers to acknowledge consumer complaints in writing within 15 calendar days of receipt to ensure timely communication and tracking of unresolved issues. Reason A is not correct. 5 days is shorter than the specified acknowledgement period under this regulation. Reason B is not correct. 10 days is not the time frame set for acknowledgement. It applies more commonly to response timelines in other jurisdictions. Reason C is not correct. 30 days exceeds the maximum acknowledgement period mandated by the rule. Question 18. Which of the following data elements is explicitly required to be recorded in an insurer's complaint tracking system under 11 NCAC 04.0418? A. estimated settlement amount. B, complainant's social security number. C, date the complaint was received. D, adjuster's commission rate. The correct answer is C. The regulation mandates that insurers document the date each complaint is received to ensure proper tracking and timely resolution. Reason A is not correct. Financial estimates are not part of the mandated tracking fields. Reason B is not correct. Social security numbers are not required by the rule and would raise privacy concerns. Reason D is not correct. Commission details are unrelated to complaint tracking requirements. Question 19. According to 11 NC-AC04.0418, which element must be included in a complaint response letter to a consumer? A, preliminary offer of settlement terms. B, invitation to schedule a face-to-face meeting. C, explanation of the company's investigation findings and position. D, overview of current industry market trends. The correct answer is C. The rule specifies that response letters must include a clear explanation of the investigation findings and the company's position to ensure transparency and consumer understanding. Reason A is not correct. Settlement offers may follow later but are not required content in the response letter. Reason B is not correct. Offering a meeting is not a mandated component of the written response. Reason D is not correct. Market trends are irrelevant to an individual complaint response. Question 20. After exhausting its internal complaint process within the 30-day timeframe, an insurer receives notification that the policyholder has filed a grievance with the North Carolina DOI Consumer Services Division. Under 11 NCAC04.0418, what must the insurer do when coordinating with division staff? A, acknowledge the referral, designate a single liaison, and submit a written response to division staff within 10 business days. B, provide copies of all claim records and documents upon request within 10 business days. C, forward the complaint to division staff only if it remains unresolved 60 days after initial receipt. D, advise the policyholder that the division cannot intervene until the insurer completes its internal review. The correct answer is A. The correct answer reflects the rule's requirement to promptly acknowledge referrals from division staff, assign a single point of contact, and provide a written response within 10 business days, ensuring effective coordination under 11 NCAC 04.0418. The other options either misstate the timeline or mischaracterize when and how the insurer must share information. Reason B is not correct. The rule does not require providing all claim documents within 10 business days, only a written acknowledgement and liaison designation. Reason C is not correct. There is no 60-day waiting period for forwarding complaints. Coordination must occur within 10 business days of referral. Reason D is not correct. The insurer must coordinate with division staff immediately upon referral, not wait until internal review completion. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below, we read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.